I work across media formats and platforms to engage in quite a broad way with contemporary networked identity. And I usually use my own lived experience to explore the idea of a subject who's aware of her own entanglement within systems of representations, but also trying to maybe dream of possibilities beyond these. So I often explain it as a kind of performative autobiography, or maybe autoethnography, that examines the self and the place of art within social, political and cultural institutions, including technologies and belief systems of all sorts that frame our lives. So, for example, here, affect recognition software, which attempts to codify human emotions, obviously with the intention of then doing something with that, so monetizing that in some way. So institutions, of course, are not solid, and they're constantly changing and shifting from cinema to TV to social media, and so our awareness of what boundaries are within the institutions that maybe as artists we're trying to define and sometimes go beyond. In a sense, I suppose one of the things I was thinking while preparing this talk is that feminism itself is maybe a certain type of institution with its own, different generations and waves, and also with its own historic blind spots and exclusions, particularly in relation to women of colour and trans women and non-binary identifying people. So while I draw on my own experiences and my own identity, I aim to centre my work, and also this is something I'm very much learning about, I'm not necessarily an expert on, but within an intersectional feminism that attempts to become aware of the different and specific challenges facing women with different gender expressions and racial identities to my own. So for those of you, I'm sure quite a few of you know this, but intersectionality was first used by black legal scholar Kimberlé Crenshaw, but it's since been used in many ways, and this is a definition by Lavoria Carbonics, who are a feminist collective, and in a manifesto as Feminism, where they say intersectionality is not morcellation, which I had to look up on the way, and it means like cutting things up into tiny sections, of collectives into a static fuzz of cross-referenced identities, but a political orientation that slices through every particular, refusing the crass pigeonholing of bodies. So, in many ways, as I said, I do draw on myself, and I kind of use myself as a guinea pig to explore some of these institutions. And in this sense, I'm drawing on histories of self-experimentation. When I first started studying, I was actually doing chemistry, and this idea of the kind of the self-experimentation, the self-guinea pig is something I'm quite interested in. So I use myself as a guinea pig in to bring some of these biases in institutions to life, where institutions include Google, Facebook, the media, iPhones, algorithms, and so on. So in my project, Life in AdWords, I wrote and emailed to myself my personal diary every day for almost a year, and then I sent it to my Gmail account and recorded to webcam the keywords and phrases that it produced in response to my text. So it's this kind of algorithmic reading through this commercial interface of personal writing. So it kind of humorously explores the reading of our emails and the way that in the free web we are, the subject is the commodity that makes it free. So I thought I'd just show a little bit of it, give you an idea. Hopefully the sounds can work. Okay.
Upset stomach nausea, body language, hilarious jokes, your mama jokes, travel distance, air travel, sound and light, speed of blood, trip to Geneva, English conversation, stress and anxiety, natural stress relief. Existence of God. Is God real? God. The existence of God. Dating girls. Dating men. Men dating. What men want. Deleted file recovery. Recover lost data. Outlook, recover deleted emails. www.gmail.com. Fear, overcoming fear, anxiety fear, fear of vomiting, feeling bloated, emotional, understanding men's emotions, birth control, red wine online, healthy drinking water, benefits drinking water.
So I'll leave it there. It's about an hour and 10 minutes altogether, and it's all online if you want to have a look at it. But just to say that I also shared them every day as I was doing it on Facebook, and again, maybe picking up on what Paul was talking about as well, the sense of continuation with artworks being able to kind of generate other, or exist across other platforms. So it's hard to say where it ends, because at the same time you're also seeing people's comments here, and there's also a question as to what extent their comments become part of the work, and should I ask for permission? I actually haven't in this case, but I usually do. So as well as exploring ideas of privacy and intimacy, and the question between where public and private, which is again another type of boundary lies, kind of comes up in this work in terms of what is it okay to share and what not. But also using these platforms as sites of dissemination and to make the work. Again, as Paul said, it's kind of using the most accessible media of our day in order to investigate them in some way. So in this sense, I see them in a tradition of feminist and female art as diverse as people like Dara Birnbaum or Sanja Vekovic in her project Double Lives, who are bringing up the traditions and the institutions of TV, or here like women's magazines, and also many artists such as Adrian Piper, who foreground their own identity in order to and personal experience in order to bring to light wider racial, gender and political systems. So here this is Adrian Piper's My Calling card, and Laura Macadate's Untitled in her video photography works. I realise I'm racing through this, so if anybody wants to ask me about it or get any specific things afterwards, then just ask. And a lot of this I touched on in my thesis, which was a few years ago now, which was about the idea of the female pool. And I drew on people like Valley Export in order to kind of put forward this argument centered around an idea of subversive mimicry, which I think we can see in quite a lot of feminist work. And basically, to sum it up, it was this idea that there was a kind of, that you could see in certain feminist work, an almost masochistic submission to what could be considered the stereotypes or the kind of laws of our day, and kind of taking them to an absurd extreme, which then exposes them as laws and not as some kind of normal expression of being female or being whatever else your identity is. But at the same time, it was also to do with how these stereotypes are mediated. So in Export's case, she's kind of exploring the institution of cinema, which kind of almost the imperative there was that the woman's mediated body should be accessible as an image and as an object to the viewer and to the male gaze. So coming back to my work now, this project, The Outage, which was a paperback book published by Banner Repeater in 2014, it kind of takes the maybe the imperative of a socially mediated life, there's many of them, but what I was picking up on here was the acceptance and willingness to become a profile and to have your stuff, your personal information, be accessible and shareable and available by inviting and commissioning a writer to ghostwrite my autobiography. So it's a ghostwritten memoir based only on my digital footprint, which I kind of defined as my as a collection of like intimate data, which could be stuff that maybe lies behind the password wall, whether that be Amazon recommendations, YouTube history, Facebook messages. I collected a sample of them. But also, of course, one's online presence is something that even though you may know what you're sharing and putting out there, you don't necessarily know what people are making of that and how that may be read with other bodies of information. While at the same time, of course, it being a female ghostwritten memoir, it calls up another familiar cultural form, which is a celebrity memoir, almost always ghostwritten, and despite its intimacy and access, follows a similar template, which kind of belies the authenticity that's being proposed through them. And again, I saw this as kind of relating maybe to the unmediated expression that things like social media expect of us, and as artists we often do, and I know this is something I'm aware of, even using things like Twitter, this, you know, what kind of voice do you use? So just to pick up on art historian David Jusselit's argument that the author doesn't die in the age of information, but rather is transformed into a profile. And of course he's riffing off Roland Barthes' Death of the Author here. And he kind of talks about it in the sense of agency, and who has agency over one's image. And again, maybe this picks up on what Paul was talking about, but what I've seen in some of my work, with this thing of like, if you release your image out there, it's all good and well when people are using it in ways that you like, and I've definitely had that happen to me where I've allowed footage to be kind of remixed by whoever, but I've never experienced my image, let's say, being used to advertise something racist. You know, so this question of like who has agency over their image. I also thought about the fact that maybe, as this has been coming up, particularly from kind of maybe a more privileged section of society, i.e. white men, it's maybe this kind of antipathy towards becoming profiled. And this is one of the profiles I got done for the outage. It's a professional profile which ranks your how you manage your online visibility. I scored very highly, please hear. But maybe this anxiety of becoming profile is also a response from those who have historically not had to experience the sense of being objectified, being made into some kind of profile of just one body amongst others on a demographic curve, rather than an individual with an interior life and so on. And in that sense, there are many bodies who have been historically surveilled in that way. And Simone Brown, for example, has written in her book Dark Matters about the long and ongoing history of surveillance of racialized bodies. So to bring another view on the idea of becoming profile, and also of maybe this kind of machinic and algorithmic view of a female body, is my video body scan, which explores a different sort of visual codification using a very lo-fi image recognition app to photograph and kind of identify different parts of my body, and kind of puts it forward as so many nodes in a commercial network. So I'm going to show a little bit of it here.
Identifoders can know and detect countless curiosities, sending you images hit sensory nerves on yellow fabric. They call it mellow, acid pale, instant sunshine stings my eyes. Identifying human stomach, a hollow muscular organ, forms gastric acid. Is it cancer? And how to survive another human? Human belly button. Why do I have a belly button? Identifying woman's blue undergarment. Blue lace trim panties, honeydew intimates, California blue, dreaming of you, starry blue, waist cheek secret, woman's Superman pants to you, waving blue, woman's blue shorts, shipping both ways, save today for future reference. Just be patient, but baby, I can't wait forever, 21. 402 Hamburg Road, Catskill, woman breast, fast enlargement, perfect woman, natural implants explode, nearly me, nearly new. Nearly back with you, baby. Human knees, two woven place. Human armpit, identifying human feet, identifying human underarm. Bruised human skin. Black grey cheetah print knee, identifying sending image. Scratching fingernail, trouble waiting for response, waiting for everything. Woman's body, a user's manual, feel my body image from the inside. To talk about sex, it helps to know about the human eye at Amazon, capable of receiving visual images, mental images, sending skin, human lips, part slightly your pink lips, kiss pink leopard print lips, balloon, these weird old tips for honey pink lips.
So there's this kind of, as it's identifying parts of the body, linking it also, especially to all the ways in which the female body can be improved and modified and changed in order to fit the kind of normative description of what the female body, particularly the white female body in this instance, should look like. At the same time, it's also a kind of love letter, and you could probably see that there's somebody else in the photos taking the photos, and that being my boyfriend. And so in that sense, it kind of pulls up the history of maybe earlier feminist work, like Carolee Schneeman's Fuses, which are quite intimate kind of sexual portraits. But at the same time, I think it's also in relation to what has come to be called a kind of selfie feminism, which is or was, depending on how you look at it, a kind of fourth wave feminism that's particularly taking into account the experiences of digital natives, I suppose, and the extent to which online platforms provide space potentially for promoting gender equality. And I think this is, this debate is kind of ongoing, and this is what I'm going to talk about for the rest of my talk, I guess. So the arguments for selfie feminism is, as Sarah Burke argues in a recent piece online, it kind of claims that selfies are empowering because they reclaim the male gaze by allowing women to flip their own gaze onto themselves and let it publicly be known that they're doing so. So in a sense, going back to the sense of this question of who has agency over their image, there's a claim there that this knowing circulation is a type of empowerment and a type of agency whereby young women can claim their own images and do so in a kind of knowing way. It's kind of cleaving to a very particular type of woman, cis, white, skinny, young, quite often pretty. So there is this question of what is this kind of agency? And this is something I'd also explored in earlier works of mine, like Woman Nature Alone, where I reenacted hundreds of stock video and photography captions and titles relating to the keywords woman, nature, alone. And I did this while I was on residency, posted them online and just left them there on YouTube. And very well keyworded as well, so of course they're very searchable, and people then ended up using them in their own videos, and I've got a whole other playlist of remixed versions of Woman Nature Alone. But one of the things that's kind of that's interesting is that this is my most viewed video. For some reason it's slightly cut it off, but I had actually cropped it so that you could see that it's got 112 thumbs up and 25 thumbs down. And I also got lots of comments on like, why am I wearing my bra? This was very badly filmed. And again, you have this kind of this commenting on what happens when you open your work out into these spaces. So I guess one of the questions there is like, what value does that number have? What does it matter that video has been seen that many times? Does that translate into any kind of artistic value or in any kind of feminist agency or empowerment? And many people have started to kind of say no, basically. So Aisha Siddiqui, who is the editor of The New Inquiry and also a writer, she's argued that online visibility does not simply equal power, and she's talking more in the sense of how people use platforms. But also Aria Dean, in the same publication online, in an article Closing the Loop, has said making one's visibility visible, subjectivity visible, or affirming one's existence through a selfie has yet to demolish the gaze. And in 2016, catapulting ourselves into circulation as image fragments no longer makes for a resistance or revolution. And so, she says there are severe limitations to self-representation that can and has been absorbed into a mainstream of circulation. But she goes on to ask whether selfie feminism holds anything of value for black women. And it seems that her argument is that, I'm quoting here, approaching the ruins of the selfie politic with a critical edge that perhaps only black women, femmes, and gender non-conforming people can bring to it. And so one of the examples she gives is Shawnee Michelene Holloway, who is herself doing a remake of Carrie Mae Weems' 1987 work, Mirror Mirror, which foregrounds and critiques media and long-held myths around beauty, but also fairy tales, as being obviously Snow White. And as I'm almost at time here, I just thought I'd also just kind of finish on maybe what some of these, or just show this Judith Butler quote, which kind of goes back to my thesis. For a copy to be subversive of heterosexual hegemony, it has to both mime and displace its conventions. And not all mimicry is displacing. So maybe a question that I'm kind of thinking about is, what can kind of go beyond like a subversive mimicry and can maybe look into projecting new identities and different ways of understanding selves. And this work by Tabitha Rezaire, Peaceful Warrior, she's a French Guyanese and Danish new media artist now based in Johannesburg, and she's done a lot of work around around non-white subjectivity and it being a site of kind of celebration and dreaming as well. And sorry, I'm just skipping through my work here. I was just going to point these out, which are different ways of engaging with digital, which are not necessarily about showing a female form, but picking up on gendered forms of labour and caring. So here I did a whole project of cleaning people's mobile phones and making them to a big kind of sheet with people's names on them, almost a bit like Instagram, but at the same time a different form of profiling, this kind of like DNA, biological, intimate dirt, I guess, which is also kind of an identifier as well. And I also did a version at Rising Arts Centre where I went and cleaned all of their machines and